She was already on my porch when I came home from work, arms crossed, face red like she'd been waiting for a fight. "You can't do that," she yelled, pointing at the new lock I had just installed. I still had my toolbox in hand. I blinked at her, confused. "Do what?" I asked. "Change the locks," she snapped. "This is a controlled neighborhood, and I run the HOA here." She actually said that like she was the mayor or something. I laughed a little, but her face didn't move. She pulled out her phone right in front of me and said, "If you don't put the old lock back, I'm calling 911 right now." I thought she was bluffing, but within minutes I heard sirens. My heart dropped as 2 patrol cars turned the corner, lights flashing. Neighbors peeked through curtains. I stood there holding a screwdriver, while she told the cops I'd broken into a property I didn't own. One of the officers looked at me carefully, hand near his taser. My hands went up instantly. "This is my house," I said. "I've lived here 6 years. Check the records." But Karen jumped in, waving a folder of random papers. No, she insisted. "He's lying!" The HOA never approved his occupancy. "This property is under review." I couldn't believe it. She had faked documents with HOA, letterheads and signatures that didn't even exist. I tried to explain that the actual HOA president moved out last year, but the officers were clearly confused. One of them whispered something into his radio. Karen smirked, arms folded again, whispering loud enough for me to hear, "Told you. You can't just do whatever you want here." Then just as the officer started asking for my ID, something strange happened. My neighbor, the quiet guy from across the street, came running over, camera in hand. "Hold on," he said, out of breath. I got it all on video. She was the one trespassing. She even tried to open his mailbox. The cops turned toward her instantly. Her face froze and her voice cracked for the first time. "That's not true. He's lying. He's with him." But the look on the officer's face changed. He took the camera, pressed play, and we all watched. Karen walking up to my porch, pulling at my mailbox, and even trying to twist my new doorknob before I arrived. I could see her realize she was done. Still, she whispered under her breath, "You have no idea who you're messing with." And the way she said it sent a chill down my spine, because something in her tone told me this wasn't over. That night I couldn't sleep. Even though the cops left after warning her to stay off my property, I had a feeling she wasn't done. Around 2 a.m. I heard footsteps outside my window, slow, deliberate, like someone trying not to be heard. I grabbed my phone, started recording, and peered through the blinds. Karen was back. She was shining a flashlight at my lock, mumbling to herself, "He thinks he can change things without HOA permission? Not in my neighborhood." She had a clipboard in her hand like she was inspecting a construction site. I stepped out onto the porch, camera still rolling. "You lost Karen?" I asked, half asleep but boiling inside. She jumped back, startled, but didn't look guilty. She looked offended. "You don't talk to me like that," she said sharply. "I have every right to ensure compliance with HOA standards." Her voice cracked slightly, but her arrogance stayed steady. I pointed at the camera. "You're trespassing again," she scoffed. "Oh, please. My cousin's a police captain. You really want to play that game with me?" That line hit hard, because the next morning, I got a notice taped to my door, a bright yellow paper with an HOA logo at the top and a bold headline, "Property under violation review." It looked official, but something felt off. The logo was blurry. The font was different, and the signature at the bottom said Karen Stevenson, acting compliance chair. There was no such position. I knew because I checked the HOA website myself. By noon, I had 2 officers at my door again. Same story, same fake complaint. They said they got an anonymous call claiming a break-in at the listed property. I was beyond frustrated. "You mean she called again?" I said. The officer sighed quietly. "We can't say, sir, but if this continues, file a harassment report." Karen stood across the street with her arms folded, smiling. She mouthed the words, "Told you." But what she didn't know was that I had already started. Printing every false notice, saving every clip, every 911 call record, and camera footage in a folder labeled Karen Evidence. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to fight. I was going to end this properly. And she handed me my perfect chance that evening. When she tried to enter my house again, this time with 2 men wearing security uniforms that didn't look official at all. I was in the kitchen when I heard the knock. 3 sharp bangs that echoed through the house. When I opened the door, Karen stood there with two men in matching dark uniforms and plastic badges clipped to their belts. "Step aside," she ordered. "These are HOA security officers. We're here to inspect unauthorized modifications." I stared at them. The badges looked printed from a home computer. One of the guys even had his name tag crooked. "You're not coming in," I said firmly. Karen smirked. "If you refuse inspection, I'll have them remove you from the property." She actually snapped her fingers like she was giving orders. The taller man stepped forward and said in a deep voice, "Ma'am, we're going to need you to comply." For a moment, I almost laughed. Then my phone started recording in my pocket. "Sure," I said quietly. "You mind showing me your security license?" The man hesitated, looked at Karen. It's with the HOA office," he muttered. I tilted my head. "Oh, really? Because the HOA doesn't employ security officers. I checked their public roster this morning." Karen's face stiffened. "Don't test me," she snapped. "I told you, my cousin's a captain. You'll regret this." She turned to the fake guards. "Do it." That's when I stepped out, calm but steady, and said something that made her blink. "You're standing on private property, impersonating officials, and this house happens to belong to a former Federal Housing Investigator." Her mouth fell open. "What?" I pulled out my badge, the real one I'd kept from my previous career before retirement. The two men instantly froze. Karen's expression went from fury to disbelief. "That's fake," she stammered, stepping back. "You're bluffing." I tapped my phone screen. The recording light blinked red. "Then smile for the camera and let's find out," I said. The fake guards started backing away slowly. Karen tried to stop them, but one of them muttered, "Lady, we're not getting arrested for this." They took off down the driveway. She stood there trembling, pointing at me. You think you can scare me with that old badge?" I looked her straight in the eye. "No, I'll let the real cops do that part." And just as I said it, blue and red lights flickered down the street again. But this time, they weren't here for me. The real cops stepped out fast, flashlights cutting through the dusk. Karen tried to switch roles instantly, waving her hands in fake panic. "Officers! Thank God you're here," he threatened me. He showed a fake badge and tried to assault me. She actually wiped her eyes like she was crying, but not a single tear came out. The officer closest to her, a tall man with a calm face, looked at me. "Sir, can we talk?" he asked. I nodded and handed him my ID and my actual federal credentials. "Everything's recorded," I said quietly. "She brought two men impersonating security officers to my property. I have the footage." He took one look at the screen and whistled low. "That's enough." Then he turned toward Karen. "Ma'am, you said these men were with you?" Karen blinked fast. "No, I don't even know them." The officer raised an eyebrow. "That's strange because the same men just confessed they were paid cash by you to help enforce HOA rules. They're waiting in the patrol car." Her face drained of color. They're lying." But it was too late. The officer read her rights right there in front of half the neighborhood. She started screaming, "You can't do this. I am the HOA. I run this place." The neighbors came out with phones, recording everything. Some even clapped. As they cuffed her, she glared at me through the flashing lights. "This isn't over," she hissed. "You'll regret ever moving here." I didn't even respond. I just handed the officer my evidence folder labeled Karen Evidence and said, "You'll find everything inside." She was taken away, still yelling about how she was saving the neighborhood. I stood there, finally breathing again. One of the officers turned back toward me and said, "We've been getting complaints about her for months. You just helped us close the case." But something inside me still felt uneasy, because as the patrol car drove off, I noticed a woman standing in the shadows near Karen's house, watching me, not saying a word. When she turned to leave, I caught a glimpse of her phone screen. It had Karen's contact photo on it, and she was still on a live call. The next morning, I woke up to a strange sound, metal clinking near my front gate. I looked through the window and froze. Someone had placed a fresh HOA notice sign on my fence again. Same fake logo, same wording. But this one was nailed in. My gut twisted. Karen was in custody, so who the hell put that there? I stepped outside, phone in hand, recording automatically now out of habit. Across the street, the same woman I'd seen in the shadows last night. stood with her arms folded, glaring at me. She looked older than Karen, same sharp eyes though. "Morning," I said, pretending calm. "You left this here?" She smiled thinly. "You humiliated my sister last night," she said. "You think she's the only one who runs things here?" That's when it clicked, Karen's sister. She took a slow step forward, voice low and controlled. "You might have gotten her arrested, but I'm the real HOA president. Everything that happens on this street goes through me." I didn't answer. I just lifted my phone higher, making sure it caught her face. "Good," I said softly. "Then you'll love what's coming next." She frowned, confused. I reached into my jacket and pulled out a sealed envelope. The official HOA audit request I had filed at dawn. Inside were copies of fake notices, recordings, and payment proof Karen made to the fake security men. The real HOA board, who hadn't met in over a year, was already reviewing everything. By noon, the same officers returned, but this time they were accompanied by a county investigator. They knocked on her door, showed her the documents, and told her the entire HOA operation she and Karen had been running was illegal, completely unregistered, forged, and under criminal review. I watched from my porch as her face went pale, her voice breaking. "You can't take this from me. We built this neighborhood," she screamed. But the investigator simply said, "No, ma'am. You built a scam." As they left, I finally exhaled. For the first time in weeks, the street was quiet. No fake notices. No shouting. Just peace. I replaced the dented HOA sign on my fence with a small wooden plaque I made myself. It read, "Freedom lives here," and as the sun went down, I looked into the camera one last time and said, "Never let anyone make you feel small on your own land. Some people think they run the neighborhood until the law reminds them who really does."